Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, I sure can't wait to play my favorite game, Dead by Daylight. Oh, what's this? Must be the new patch notes. Listen, behavior, we have to have a talk. Yeah, I'll be honest with you guys. I had no idea how to properly start this, so I figured I'll just play some footage for an old game I had sitting around, and I would simply just read you guys my Steam review to give you an idea of exactly how I feel about everything Behavior has been doing up until this point. Hello, I'm Jesse, aka Survival Punk, aka The Wide Guard, aka, oh no, it's that guy. As someone who plays both roles equally, Survivor as Kate, Steve, Meg, and Zarina, usually solo, Killer as Unknown, Plague, Wesker, or Nemesis, my favorite characters to play, although I don't really have a main necessarily, mostly just a rotation of characters that may change in the future, who knows. I got to say, Behavior, you are slowly but surely making this game one of, if not the most unplayable, unbalanced, and unenjoyable gaming experiences out there. Period. I've dumped over 1,000 hours into this game, which, by the way, isn't including any of the countless thousands of hours I spent watching videos about the game, or watching people play the game, or learning about the game, or talking to people about the game. Just all that to the side. I have played on and off since its official release. It is my favorite game. Honestly, I love it a lot. Moreover, it's a game I'm actually really good at, an experience I seldom ever have playing games in general. That is why it pains me to say, I do not recommend the game in its current state, and considering the changes they keep making, it's only getting worse. Simply put, the game is completely biased towards Survivor players to an insane, almost comical degree. Now, before I am accused of being a biased Killer main, I'm simply not. I play and enjoy both roles almost equally, leaning in favor of Killer, though I have more hours as Surf. Now, admittedly, I am much better at Killer, a fact I take pride in considering how much more difficult the role is in comparison. I was consistently your Decent 1 back when ranks meant something, and you actually could derank before the introduction of their god-awful, hidden MMR system, and I used to main Wraith and Legion, two weak killers, making it more impressive in my opinion, but that's neither here nor there. Killer feels horrible to play. You're not the threat as Killer. The survivors are the real threat. You chase them like an angry lunch lady, swinging a ladle at them as they literally bully you out of the game. Killer is the worst part of this game, by far, which is crazy, considering you wouldn't have a game without them. Let's face it, this is basically Mario Party with slasher villains. It should be Killer-sided, but isn't. Survivor's not fun anymore either. Not when more than half my wins feel free due to poor mismanagement of game balance and blatant handholding of survivors. How is it fun to auto-lose half of every Killer game despite your best efforts? And often at no fault of your own. And auto-win half of every Survivor game without even trying, especially in Swift. It feels bad, guys. Real bad. More than half the maps can lose you a Killer game. Hope the servs don't force one with offerings. Vigil stacking hard counters 80% of builds. Shoulda ran Aura and Anti-Gen. Flashlight squads, no Lightborn, sorry. Thabos squads, no Agitation or Iron Grasp, yikes. Plus 3 to 4 man Swifts lose in lobby with 0 counterplay. Feels good, huh? And that's if you play a strong killer. God forbid you have the audacity to try and have fun with Ghostface or Myers. Killers get over-nerfed, especially when new. Take Springtrap, for instance. I was happy with the PTB, but they keep nerfing him for no good reason. Now he feels terrible to play. His counterplay is too pre-run. Super easy to figure out. But why adapt? Cry for nerfs, right? Nerfing him was a OG Freddy move. Long story, watch a video. Springtrap's kit incentivizes a hit-and-run playstyle, which is why it is so wild to me that they seem to punish you for playing him that way. Why play him when I could be Unknown or Wesker for equal map pressure on much stronger killers with more rewarding learning curves? You, behavior, refuse to balance the game around comms, despite knowing most players play comms. You literally asked in one of your latest surveys if in-game chat, there isn't one, is upsetting? Freudian slip much? But oh no, Swift is less than 4% of the player base, right? Yeah, that's why 4 of the new Survivor perks, Walking Dead, are literally worthless outside of hardcore SWF and bully squads. Gen speeds are too fast. 2 gens before first chase, even if it ends in under 30 seconds. Healing under hook in under 5 seconds is unreal, and you nerf the only answers killers have to this crap: Franklin's and anti-gen perks. You just added fog vials, infinitely reusable smoke bombs. Duly note that they're not infinite anymore, but that is besides the point. Which is bad enough without the game breaking bugs you knew about and ignored. And now you're adding base kit unbreakable with tenacity? Plus they already get base kit borrowed time. I mean, come on guys. How many second chances does a motherfucker need? Just let them die if they play bad. There's already 30 god palettes and 5 infinity loops per map. What are we doing here? Nothing boils my blood more than outplaying someone or punishing bad play just to have to drop chase and let them insta-heal. Why? Because there are 6 pallets and a double window right there. That, or commit to downing them in hopes only one gen finishes while they circle around a window wall like a bot for 8 seconds, just to shift W dramaturgy away with windows of opportunity wall hacks to find the next line of pallets to pre-drop in my face. All the while thinking they somehow outplayed me, quote unquote. Engaging gameplay. Serves are gonna get rebalanced eventually, and they're gonna have no clue how to play due to not having to meta adapt in almost 5 years. Okay, slugging and tunneling is bad, but if games are ending in under 6 minutes with no counterplay, what do you expect killers to do? Stop punishing killers for doing what you, quite frankly, are forcing them to do, and start rewarding killers, like me, for actually trying to play the game as you intended. 12 hooking, which is way more fun in my opinion anyway. I hate slugging, camping, and tunneling. I would like to specify I hate the hard applications of those strategies. The tactical application of those strategies are fine and just, strategies. But anyways, I find it unfun, unengaging, and personally, I don't want to ruin the game for others. But I hate losing with no counterplay more. So back to the hook you go, Meg. 3rd time in a row. I hope you enjoyed your 3-ish minutes in the game. Fun! I mean, think about it. What choice do killers have when you can do shit like heal under hook in under 5 seconds, finish all 5 gens in less than 6 minutes, and serves cry when killers use corrupt intervention, right? But now slugging and tunneling are off the table, so there's literally nothing you can do. Again, as someone who genuinely plays and enjoys both roles, come on, just look at this crap. How much hand-holding do you need? It's bad enough the game is balanced around solo queue, which, funny enough, makes solo queue Survivor way more miserable than killer, punishing both just so Swifts can get free wins and dopamine. Killers need base kit gen regression. I don't give a shit what. Base kit corrupt, or deadlock, or grim embrace, or pain res. No, seriously, that's how dog the balance is. Literally where we are at this point, guys. And for the love of God, revert these healing buffs. I can literally run full anti-heal and apply a 120% debuff, and they still heal under hook in under 7 seconds. Almost like, for the low cost of 2 perks and a medkit, they have over 200% bonus heal speed. Plus, instant heal syringe for a total of 3 heals per kit, with literally no downside or counterplay. But don't worry, we nerfed Franklin's demise, so now you don't have to worry about countering medkits and making the poor serves sad. To quote one of my favorite streamers, Choi, "Do you feel safe yet? Can you cross the street now?"
do your hands feel held enough yet? Can you cross the road by yourself? Do you feel like you have the courage to play the game?
Honestly, just let Survivor Spartan kick killers off the fucking map at this point. Better yet, just make it pure co-op and get rid of the killer role entirely. No one's gonna want to put up with this crap much longer anyway. Just pull the ripcord and make killers box at this point, right? Welcome to Nurse by Blight Light, where the balance is in the fucking gutter. Now please keep in mind, I wrote that rant of a review roughly a month ago, and things have actually managed to get worse. What a surprise, knowing behavior, right? That's to say, not a fucking surprise at all. That all being said, let's get to the actual meat and potatoes of this video. The reason you probably clicked in the first place. Sorry for the fucking rant of a beginning. I'll put a timestamp below so you can get to the actual part you probably wanted to see. That is the patch notes themselves. Slugging reduction update. If a survivor is left in the dying state for a total of 90 seconds during a match, they gain the ability to pick themselves up after fully recovering. So let me get this straight. In other words, magically, like fucking Lazarus, they just stand up and walk it off. No medkit, no teammate, just raw anime protagonist power. And please bear in mind, that's for the entire match. Yeah, it's infinite. Oh, and fun fact, it's not 90 seconds total of being on the ground. It's actually additive. That means the timer doesn't reset after you're picked up or hooked. Anytime you're on the ground adds to the timer for the 90-second activation. Added the option to enable or disable this mechanic in custom games. Almost like they knew ahead of time they needed a way to turn this dog shit mechanic off so they don't absolutely butt-fuck tournament play. Note, perks that enable you to recover from the dying state, like Boon Exponential, will continue to function as before without needing to meet these requirements. So they just outright, at your face, right there, acknowledge the fact that the counterplay to slugging already exists in the fucking game, which is funny enough on its own. Gradually increase crawling speed for survivors who are left in the dying state. So not only is this a free unbreakable, but it's free tenacity. Added the ability for survivors to recover while crawling. Recovery now occurs passively with no need to hold a button. Once again, free tenacity and no thought whatsoever. It's just you recover over time. Okay, awesome. They get to crawl to... Not only are they recovering on their own actively, not only do they get extra crawling speed to go towards a friend to help them up even faster, but they get free unbreakable for the rest of the match. Because remember, the 90 seconds during a match, that's additive. That doesn't mean 90 straight seconds of being slugged. That means 90 total seconds, period, of being slugged. So if you were slugged for 5 or 6 seconds to protect from a flashlight save, and then slugged for another 10 to 15 seconds to like bully survivors away from the killer, so the killer can bully the survivors away to prevent like a fucking pallet save. Oh no, I had to slug you and chase this guy for another like 40 seconds. Oh, you're well over the 90 seconds, bud. Because if I slugged you 2 or 3 times over the course of the game, you get it for free. It's additive. Keep that in mind, please. Updated several survivor and killer perks to account for these changes. Of course, you're going to need to change a bunch of survivor and killer perks. You're literally taking the functional gameplay loop and the through line of the average game and throwing it through the fucking window. You are fundamentally changing the entirety of the current gameplay loop. Dev note. When it comes to slugging, we know it can be frustrating if you're on the receiving end of it too often or for too long. But we also know that sometimes it's the smart move. Do you really know? Because you're quite literally removing the strategy in its entirety. But I digress. This updated system acknowledges this, allowing the killer to slug occasionally when they feel like it's the right call. How? You can't even pretend that that statement is true, because the killer literally has no option but to attempt to pick you up and hook you. He cannot risk allowing you to get the collective 90-second slug time for infinite unbreakable. It's just too strong. But will eventually kick in and swing in the survivor's favor if slugging is used excessively, obviously referring to the anti-slug itself. A big part of this is also about making the experience of being slugged more pleasant. As much as being slugged can be, at least, the recovery changes in crawling speed will give you a bit more agency when downed, so you aren't just holding a button and waiting for someone to come and save you. That is the point of slugging. The point of slugging is applying pressure so someone has to come and save you. You are entirely removing that functionality from slugging by giving them the option to help themselves up. You are completely removing the pressure aspect of it in its entirety. So, this statement falls flat on its face and is an outright lie. And this entire dev note is a lie.
Not only are you a hot dog, a grandstander, a showboat, and a prima donna, but you're a liar too.
Now think about it, guys. Really think about it. What incentive is there to go help up an ally after they get slugged? Exactly. There is no incentive anymore. Zero, zip, fat fucking goose egg. Why would I waste my time picking you up from the ground when you're slugged when there's a perfectly good generator I should be working on at the moment? You're just gonna get unbreakable anyways. Not to mention the fact you get built-in tenacity as well. So not only can you slither across the ground at Mach 10 like Turbo the fucking Snail to the nearest ally, but they'll be recovering actively during every second of their trip. So they can one-tap heal you back to your feet, and no one ever had to leave a generator. And even if the killer comes, picks you up, and hooks you, it was still beneficial because the timer for the unbreakable is additive. That means if you were slugged for 40 seconds and you get slugged another 50 seconds later, you got unbreakable. Excuse me. Now, all the anti-slugging stuff, pretty bad on its own, but would you believe me if I told you that? That's not even the worst part of the patch notes. Oh yeah, buckle up for safety, motherfuckers. It actually gets worse. When a survivor is hooked, their hook status is hidden from the killer. When they're unhooked, there is no notification, and their hook status isn't revealed immediately. Crucial information that especially B tier or lower killers need are getting hidden from the killer. Not only that, but they're actually actively making it more difficult to avoid tunneling by accident. Which is so funny when you take into consideration this is supposed to be anti-tunneling in the first place. But don't you worry, all this crucial information is given back to you as soon as all the generators are completed. You know, when they matter the least. Unhooked survivors gain the following effects for a limited time: haste, endurance, and elusive. We'll get into that horseshit in just a minute. Don't you fucking worry. See below status effects. No collision with other players, both killer and survivor. Admittedly, this is a really good change, probably the only good change in the entire patch. This really should have been in the game from day dot, honestly. This basically means that survivors can't use their anti-tunnel aggressively against a killer in order to protect other survivors. This is a good change. Immunity to killer instinct and sees the killer's aura nearby. So not only do they get free aura reading, but you can't even get killer instinct off on survivors after being unhooked, which, by the way, is a huge shutdown for like over half the killers in the game, including B tier or lower killers especially, who need killer instinct for map-wide information. Because up until this point, killer instinct is the only information tool killers have that can't somehow be turned off by survivor perks. And by the way, behavior, just throwing this out there, why the fuck are we shutting down a core aspect of like 90% of killer kits? Because I don't know if you were aware of this or not, killer instinct is pretty much attached to every killer power. These effects are lost when the affected survivor performs a conspicuous action. So basically, whenever they work on a gen, for example, it goes away. We already know what conspicuous actions are. I don't even know why they bothered listing it. All of these effects, except haste and endurance, are disabled once all generators are completed. Literally doesn't change anything, doesn't matter. Next up, the so-called killer buffs. You know, the base kit incentives they're dangling in front of us like fucking scraps. Added a unique effect to the killer hook state UI that indicates the last survivor they hooked. Alright, this is actually worthless for two reasons. Reason number one, because I cannot properly track hook states, and I don't know whether or not the person I'm hooking is on death hook, I'm at risk of fucking myself over. We'll get into that shortly. Reason number two, if there are two or more survivors playing the same character with the exact same skin, I am at risk of accidentally hooking the same character twice. Why? Because I don't know who is who. I could see the UI telling me who was the last person I hooked, but what I don't see is which one of them is actually them, because they're the same visually. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but wait a minute. The HUD, it tells you when you're in chase and who you are chasing. Well, here's the thing. That doesn't work if there's multiple people being chased at the same time, or if I catch them healing under hook, potentially resulting in you wasting your time downing the wrong survivor. Now, this creates an actual lose-lose scenario for the killer. You can't leave them on the ground, they get infinite unbreakable. You can't hook them, you've already hooked them before, the game will actually penalize you. We will elaborate on that later. And you can't just pick them up and let them wiggle out of your grasp, that's a giant waste of the killer's time. Now, throw fog vials into the mix, and you can multiply everything I said before by 1,000. After completing a unique hook, the same survivor is not hooked consecutively. In other words, you hook someone, then you hook someone else again. Now the person you hooked earlier, the first person you hooked, is considered a unique hook. You don't have to hook each survivor once for this to happen. Just keep that in mind. Killers get the following benefits. Bonus damage for the next generator kicked. Basically, built-in Pop Goes the Weasel. Temporary haste status effect. Basically, built-in furtive chase without the undetectable. temporarily reveals survivors. They even say themselves, basically base kit, barbecue, and chili. But next part, that have less or equal hook states to the hooked survivor. Now we're going to stop there. See, what they're trying to do here is add base kit incentive for 12 hooking. Something that I, quite frankly, as well as a good portion of the player base, have literally been begging behavior to add to the game for literal years at this point. So you'd think I'd be over the fucking moon for this change, right? Well, we got some problems. To begin with, kicking a generator already regresses it by 5%. So I promise you, there's no way in hell the unique hook bonus you're going to be getting is going to be any more than an additional 5% for a total of 10%. Additionally, they're definitely going to compensation nerf Pop Goes the Weasel over this, and honestly probably even use it as an excuse to nerf anti-gen across the board again. The sad truth of the matter, though, is they could honestly make this pseudo Pop Goes the Weasel give a 15% gen regression, and it really wouldn't make a difference. Primarily due to the fact that the vast majority of killers in the game just lack the mobility to make use of Pop Goes the Weasel in the first place. So a base kit Pop Goes the Weasel basically does nothing for them, because they're never going to be able to, or at the very least, they're very rarely going to be able to pressure the gens with the pop effect that they need to actually be pressuring. Now, as for the bonus haste, that sounds pretty nice. But for one, I honestly doubt it's going to be any more than 5%. And for two, it's definitely not going to be more than 3, maybe 5 seconds, which is negligible at best. And for 3, there's only like 10, maybe 12 killers in total that can make actual use out of the haste, because the vast majority of the killer roster lacks the map pressure and mobility necessary for it to even matter. And please, forgive me for the pessimism, but knowing Behavior's track record, they're probably going to compensation nerf haste perks across the board as well. Now, in regards to the built-in barbecue and chili, it sounds good in theory, and it's a welcome addition, but the reality is, less than half the killers in the game even have the capability of making use of it in the first place. You gotta remember, the vast majority of killers in the game lack the map pressure and mobility required to even begin to make proper use of this information. And I'm sorry, I know I'm about to sound like a broken record, so say it with me. You know there's going to be compensation nerfs across the board for aura reading perks. More specifically, there's definitely going to be a nerf for barbecue and chili, alien instinct, and more possible than not, the friends till the end nemesis perk combo. Weird, I kind of felt like each part of that segment, I just kept repeating myself again and again and again. Almost as though there was some kind of pattern between each individual killer buff change. Almost as though the killer buffs, by design, are supposed to be worthless. That all to the side, however, we can finally move on to the last little bit of the killer buff section of the patch notes. These effects are disabled once all generators are completed. Now, this makes sense in regards to the pop effect, considering the fact that no more generators means no more kicking generators. But in terms of the haste and aura reading effects, it blows my mind. It absolutely baffles me why they would turn the buffs off at the very moment they are the most useful. Now, I thought long and hard about these base kit killer buffs, and honestly, I came to the conclusion the only killers in the game that can truly, arguably, actually benefit from these base kit buffs, quote unquote, are the top 5 killers in the game, who, funny a fucking enough, are the 5 killers in the game that don't get to fully benefit from the buffs. Yeah, that's right. Blight, Dracula, Kaneki, Billy, and the nurse get nerfed versions of this new base kit buff. Like, you seriously can't make this shit up. No, seriously, let that settle in for just a moment. A human being, a actual human being, not too unlike yourself, with actual thoughts and feelings and life experiences, with a mother and presumably a father, sat down and was paid money, real life, actual world money, to create this shit. Now, I see you on the other end of that computer screen, and I know you're just dying to start click-clacking at your keyboard, to type into the comment section and ask me one simple question. But Jesse, if that's the case, what is it that killers do get? Nothing. You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir. To be quite frank with you guys, the killer buff section of these patch notes in their entirety is the dictionary definition of obfuscation. But I digress. Now, before we continue on and finish off the tunneling section of the patch notes, I would like to circle on back to the previously mentioned elusive status effect. Skipping on down to the bottom of the patch notes, we have the elusive status effect. Added a new status effect that silences grunts of pain and suppresses survivor aura, pools of blood, and scratch marks. Now, before we start popping off with fire and pitchforks, you're gonna have to hear me out on this one. This actually isn't all that big of a deal. In fact, Behavior has done this before quite successfully. I am, of course, referring to the reworked killer stealth perks. You see, the vast majority of killer stealth perks had similar effects, but were just kind of sort of different from each other. So, to simplify things, Behavior took the stealth perks and put them into two categories, namely two separate status effects. Oblivious, a negative status effect applied to survivors, and Undetectable, a positive status effect applied to killers. So effectively, what Behavior is trying to do here is simplify the survivor stealth perks in the same way by creating an umbrella status effect that all the stealth survivor perks can be reworked under. Now, that's all fine and dandy, and honestly, totally makes sense why Behavior would do that. Herein lies the issue, though. Remember earlier in the patch notes where it said clearly that an unhooked survivor gains the elusive status effect? Oh yeah, that's right. So let's get this straight. Not only are survivors getting infinite base kit Unbreakable and base kit Tenacity, not only are they keeping their base kit Borrowed Time, not only are they getting a free aura read on the killer whenever they're unhooked, but they're getting the equivalent of every stealth perk in the game. Base kit on unhook. Or to be more specific, base kit Lucky Break, base kit Off the Record, and base kit Babysitter. Or at the very least, as we know them currently.
Oh my god! Wow!
Now, listen here. Would you believe me if I told you? It actually gets worse. Added new effects that disincentivize tunneling. If a survivor dies before 6 total hook states, all remaining survivors gain a repair speed bonus for the rest of the trial.
But wait! There's more! Hang on to your seat, baby! Cause this one's a screamer!
If the survivor that was last hooked is sacrificed or killed, generators cannot be regressed or blocked. And yes, this is for the rest of the trial. You know what, Behavior? Fuck you. No, seriously, what is this shit? Who the fuck do you have working for your balance team? Evil clowns that feed off negative energy? Do you even realize how dog shit that is? Let me paint you a picture. What you're saying is, I can't kill anybody in the trial before I get 6 consecutive hook states, which means I gotta hook 3 survivors twice before I could kill anybody. Not only that, but you gotta get the hooks consecutively. You can't just hook the same survivor in a row. Reason being, not only do you lose access to the near worthless killer buffs they're adding to the game, but survivors get every perk under the fucking sun on Unhook, so it's a waste of your fucking time to even attempt to do so. I'm in high MMR. That's not even possible. Most of my games are decided within the first 5 minutes of the match, and quite honestly, they don't last much longer after that anyway. And even if that wasn't the case, this would still be an issue. Your average Dead by Daylight match lasts roughly between 10 to 15 minutes. That means there's just not enough time in any given match for this to be at all feasible. Honestly, this shit reads like an edgy 16-year-old hate posting on Reddit because they got condemned moried by a Sadako in the first 5 minutes of a match. Speaking of which, Sadako, Pyramid Head, they're gone. Dead. Deleted. Removed from the fucking game. Known Sadako main, JC Glitchmaster, in his latest video, even has a little graph showcasing exactly how bad this is for Sadako. And I can't even begin to imagine the emotional whiplash you must be going through right now if you're a Pyramid Head main. I mean, he just got buffed. But yeah, Sadako and Pyramid Head are basically just dead. Not only due to all the anti-tunneling they just added to the fucking game, which effectively shuts off their playstyles, but they both have built-in moris that are important cornerstones to their playstyles that they cannot use because they cannot risk you getting a gen progress bonus, let alone losing the ability to block and regress generators. Oh yeah, and remember everything I said earlier about accidental tunneling and confusion on part of the killer? Yeah, suddenly, all that information hits a little fucking different, don't it? And by the way, I hope you enjoyed those pig buffs while they lasted, because if you thought she was unplayable before, hoo-hoo, buddy, good luck having fun after your bear traps actively cuck you out of the game. Added the option to enable or disable these new mechanics in custom games. Of course you did, otherwise you'd have to change your name and move to Argentina, because the fucking scrimmers would be hunting you down. And finally, updated several survivor and killer perks to account for these changes. Yeah, remember all the potential nerfs I was talking about earlier? It wasn't fear-mongering. It was a fucking promise. Dev note. It's no secret that tunneling can be seen as an efficient way to play for killers. You don't fucking say. While this can be true, it's also true that the results of this can be frustrating for survivors, leading to trials ending too quickly for some, while leaving others to fend for themselves in a match that is now much more difficult. Oh, you mean like gen rushing, right? That's the next part of this patch. We're gonna talk about gen rushing? Yeah, in your fucking dreams. Because when the survivor tunnels their objective, they're just playing the game as efficiently as possible, man. But when a killer tunnels his objective, he's toxic. Oh, and by the way, of course, the game's much more difficult. They're fucking losing. That's how losing works. The intention here is for both roles to feel the benefits and incentives that come from spreading hook states. On the one end, survivors have better opportunities to evade and reset after unhooks. What do you mean? They already have plenty of opportunities for that. Just watch this JC Glitchmaster clip.
One is second. Good to know.
Let's time how long it takes for Jeff to reset, shall we?
Ready? Go!
If survivors can heal under hook in under 5 seconds, how can you look me in the eye and tell me that they need more opportunities to heal? While also limiting those tough situations where losing a survivor too quickly causes things to go south quickly and snowball. On the other end, killers are able to apply more map pressure to push back against efficient teams, covering ground post-hook and strengthening gen regression. And how are you accomplishing this exactly? I mean, real question, because you're taking away the two single greatest strategies killers have to apply pressure and slow down efficient teams.
Wait a minute.
Oh, you mean the bullshit baby Pop Goes the Weasel you're putting in our base kit? Cause that's not worthless at fucking all, right? Honestly, these patch notes in their entirety has completely and utterly proven behavior not only has no idea how to properly tunnel and slug, they have no fucking idea why tunneling and slugging occurs in the first place. But of course they don't know. They don't even play their own fucking game. Cause if they did, we would never have been introduced to Jim the fucking Pole. Now, before moving forward, here's a quick rundown of everything that's wrong with all the anti-tunneling and anti-slugging changes they're adding to the game. Or at the very least, everything I haven't listed thus far. The accidental buffing of clone stratting to confuse the killer. As you can see in this simulated situation, I am getting looped by a Dwight over at Killer Shack. Now, as I'm looping Dwight and I come around through the doorway, I see another Dwight has entered the area. Do you see the problem here? The only reason I can tell which Dwight is which is because they're holding separate items. Now, imagine, if you will, that this was a real game, those were real Dwights I was looping, they both had the same exact item, and one of them was on Death Hook, which essentially forces the killer into a very difficult 50-50, in which, if I guess wrong and I down the Dwight that's on Death Hook, I have wasted my time, because not only can I not hook them, but I can't leave them on the ground either, because I risk giving them infinite unbreakable. So I would have no choice but to pick up the Dwight and hopefully have someone pallet stun me out of holding them. If not, I would have to let the Dwight wiggle out of my arms, and that's if he wants to play ball. He simply might not. He has all the control in this situation. He might just go limp in my arms, knowing full well I have no choice but to set him back on the ground, allow him to get infinite unbreakable, and chase the Dwight that got away. Here's yet another shining example of why clone stratting is going to be super annoying in the upcoming patch. As you can see, I got two Dwights slugged on top of each other. Now, slugs sitting on top of each other isn't a super common occurrence, but does tend to happen. Imagine if one of these slugs was on Death Hook and one of them was not. I would waste my time if I picked up the wrong slug, but I have no way of telling which one is which. Next up on our list of cringe, we have aggressive body blocking from survivors who know they're on Death Hook. As you can see, I just hooked this Dwight. This Dwight is now on Death Hook. The Dwight that's on Death Hook got unhooked shortly after hooking him. Now, I know the Dwight's on Death Hook, the Dwight knows he's on Death Hook, the Dwight knows I know he's on Death Hook. Which means the Dwight knows he can be super aggressive against me with no repercussions, because he knows I cannot risk killing him. Next up on our list of bullshit, because of the new slugging changes, there is no longer any counterplay to hook dead zones. Furthermore, Thabo squads are gonna be fucking insane. Like, take a second to really imagine it. Picture it in your mind, right? A disgusting, sweaty, 4-man swift, stealth-fet Thabo squad, all using Alex's toolbox, with 4 putrid oats on Garden of Fucking Joy. Pain personified. Anyway, moving on. The next issue I would like to shed some light on is how ridiculous gen efficiency is gonna get. You see, because of base kit anti-slug and base kit anti-tunnel, there's no longer any incentive to bring anti-tunnel perks and anti-slugging perks, which means you're gonna see a lot more efficiency perks, both in terms of gen efficiency and healing efficiency. which is especially annoying due to how giga-busted healing is at the moment. Because, keep in mind, healing efficiency is time efficiency, and time efficiency is gen efficiency. On the bright side, though, that means there's less chance of you accidentally killing a Meg because she decided to shoulder the burden at the wrong time. But on the downside, you're definitely going to see more use of resilience, prove thyself, leader, resurgence, and botany knowledge. Not to mention vigil stacking. So, next up on our docket of misery, I have a little hypothetical for you boys and girls. Take a toxic, sweaty 3-man Swift, right? They enter a game. Their random gets chased by the killer first, ends up getting on hook. They manage to finish the first 2 gens fairly quickly. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely do you think this 3-man is going to actually save him? Because if they're competent and confident enough, they might just let him die on hook and just absorb the rewards of the anti-tunneling buff. Yeah, we might be about to witness the very first sacrifice meta, where players actually sacrifice other players in order to reap the rewards of the anti-tunnel benefits. Which is fucking hilarious when you take into consideration that this is supposed to be the anti-play patch. And this is going to be the biggest surge of anti-play the game has ever seen. Not to mention the fact that I can see in my mind's eye 4-man Swifts actually taking turns sacrificing themselves for the team to benefit from the same rewards. But to be perfectly honest, I can kind of see people in solo queue doing it to each other as well. It's pretty strong buffs. And isn't it kind of funny to think about survivors sacrificing each other to the entity for power? Which leads me on to probably the final thing I want to mention. Of course, everything I mentioned before, from beginning to end, is abusable by Swifts. But let's be honest, the entire game is abusable by 4-man Swift. So that's not a surprise. So here's the thing, guys. I could go on and on and on about this, because the sad reality is, I haven't even covered half the shit that's wrong with these patch notes. I'm not even kidding. You can probably do a 2-hour iceberg video on this shit. So, for the sake of prosperity, we're gonna end this little list here. Now that all the cards are laid out on the table, it begs the question, what the fuck do we even do in this meta other than play the top tier characters, right? But that's not entirely true either. Because, surprise! Not only is Kaneki getting his 18th consecutive nerf, but they're quite literally neutering Dracula's wolf form. Pun intended. So guess what? They're off the table. And let's be honest, Billy was never an option on the table to begin with. For starters, not only is he the most map dependent out of all the top tier killers, but his skill floor is on Mars, and his skill ceiling is floating off somewhere in the fucking Andromeda Galaxy. So, unless you get a hyperbolic time chamber to spend the next 50 years in, he's off the table as well. Which leaves... oh boy, it's actually here, isn't it? The madmen, they've done it! It is finally here! The prophecies have been fulfilled! Blue pill or red pill, baby. Choose your fucking poison. We are officially in Nurse by Blight Light. Now, this video is already running about 50 minutes, and I would prefer to keep it under an hour, but there is a couple other items on the patch notes that I should glaze over real quick, just to get them out of the way. So first off, Behavior has made the wise decision to touch up Race Car Clown. It's just a couple of minor tweaks to his kit, but this is pretty fucking necessary. I thought he was super annoying, and I also thought it was quite depressing just how low his skill floor dropped. Basically, what they did was they touched up on the timing of his bottles, which forces you to actually be cognizant about how and when you use them and where you put them. Next up is the Unknown. All buffs across the board, all necessary, beautiful, love to see it. Unknown's one of my favorite characters, and honestly, the increased camera vertical range should have been a part of his kit from day dot. Next up is the Oni. Basically, what they're doing for him is they're giving him a compensation buff to make up for all the slugging nerfs. Because, you know, they are going to hit him pretty hard. Never mind the fact they're ignoring quite literally every other slugger in the fucking game, but these buffs are pretty decent. Basically, he gets extra blood whenever he hooks a survivor. It's cool. It's a buff. And last, but certainly not least, Myers. Myers, my sweet summer child, what have they done to you? As you can see, there's a fucking lot here, and I just don't have time to go through each item individually, so I'm going to zoom it up to the screen for you so you can read it yourself. Basically, the long story short version of this is they took away his evil within and replaced it with toggled modes. Yeah, I know, stupid. Stalker mode and pursuer mode. And he essentially builds up a dash, which is really dumb. Like, what the fuck? Because, you know, Michael Myers from Halloween, well-known Olympic-level sprinter. So basically know that I use no hyperbole when I say this is straight-up identity death for the character. So here we are again. Much like how I didn't know how to start the video, I really don't have a good idea on how to end the video either. Fortunately, I thought ahead on this one, and I purposefully left a part of my Steam review out so that I could read it for the outro. Listen, behavior, real talk. I love ya. I know you're working hard with the thankless job of running this game. I love what you made, and I thank you for it, truly, from the bottom of my dark, tilted heart. But, for the love of Christ, line up your balance team, grab them one by the face, and give each and every one of them a good shake. Then, make playing killer mandatory at least once a day. That way, if they have to suffer alongside killers, maybe they might get a buff or two. Or at the very least, they might know what the fuck they're doing to some degree. But let's be honest, you guys do know what you're doing, don't you? Gotta make that green, am I right? Rest in peace, Dead by Daylight. Dead game. Gone, but not forgotten. Guess I'll just find the next day sim to play before it goes the way of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Evil Dead, Evolved, and, well, DBD. Dead by Daylight? Psh, more like Dead by Devs. Sad. Too long, don't read. Dead by Daylight is dead, and Swifts/devs killed it. Alright, I'm not gonna lie, guys. This came down to the wire because I was really hoping to release this video before the updated patch notes, which is in a couple hours now. So thankfully, I finished in the nick of time. It just took me, you know, not sleeping for 3 days straight. I'm a slow boy. What can I say? That being said, thank you for watching. I appreciate you guys. Like, follow, subscribe, hit the bell, get in the comments. Thank you for watching. As for what I'm going to be doing, well, I should be getting some sleep or finding pretty much anything to do other than this. But, you know, what can I say? I got a problem. Peace.